Frank Morrison walked slowly down Main Street with his old canvas bag hanging from his shoulder. The hot summer sun beat down on his weathered face as he pushed open the glass door of Peterson's gun shop. A small bell rang above his head as he entered the cool air of the store. The smell of gun oil and metal filled his nose, bringing back memories of his time in the army many years ago. Behind the counter sat a young man with messy brown hair and tired eyes. Danny Phillips looked up from his phone for just a moment before going back to whatever game he was playing. He did not seem interested in helping customers today. Frank walked up to the counter and cleared his throat to get the young man's attention. "Excuse me, son," Frank said in his quiet voice. "I have something I would like to show you." Danny did not look up from his phone. "If you want to sell something, we only buy certain types of guns. Nothing too old or broken." Frank reached into his canvas bag and pulled out a cloth bundle. He unwrapped it carefully on the counter, revealing something that made Danny finally look up. It was not like any gun Danny had ever seen before. The metal had a strange blue-green color that seemed to shimmer in the light. The shape was wrong too, with curves that looked more like something grown than something built. "What is that supposed to be?" Danny asked, putting his phone down but not really looking interested. Frank ran his fingers along the smooth surface of the weapon. "I found this a long time ago during a mission. It is not from around here." Danny rolled his eyes and picked up the weapon without being careful. He turned it over in his hands like it was a cheap toy. "Look, old man. This is obviously some kind of movie prop or something. Maybe from one of those space movies. We do not buy fake guns or toys here." "It is not a toy," Frank said, his voice getting a little harder. "This is real and it is dangerous. I need someone who understands military equipment to look at it." Danny laughed and put the weapon back down on the counter with a loud thunk. "Right, and I suppose little green men gave this to you? Come on, Gramps. I was not born yesterday. This thing is probably made of plastic." Frank felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his temper under control. He had learned long ago that getting angry rarely solved anything. "Son, I served 3 tours in Vietnam. I know the difference between real weapons and toys. This is something the government needs to know about." "Sure you did," Danny said, already reaching for his phone again. "Look, I'm going to need you to take your space gun and leave. I have real work to do here." Frank looked at the young man for a long moment. He saw someone who had never been in real danger, who had never seen what Frank had seen. Someone who thought the world was simple and safe. Frank almost felt sorry for him. "You do not understand what you are looking at," Frank said as he began wrapping the weapon back up in its cloth. "This could be important for everyone." Danny was not listening anymore. He had gone back to his game and was making shooting sounds under his breath. Yeah, save the world and all that. "The door is behind you." Frank finished wrapping the weapon and put it back in his bag. He looked around the gun shop at all the normal weapons hanging on the walls. Rifles and pistols that men had made to fight other men. They seemed so simple compared to what he carried. So primitive. "You might want to think about what I said," Frank told Danny as he headed for the door. "Sometimes the most important things look impossible at first." Danny did not answer. He was too busy with his phone to care about what some old veteran thought was important. Frank stepped back out into the hot afternoon sun and started walking down the street. He did not see the small device hidden in his bag start to blink with a soft blue light. He did not know that high above the earth, military satellites had just detected an energy signature unlike anything they had ever seen before. The signal was brief but powerful, coming from exactly where Frank had unwrapped his weapon. In a secret facility hundreds of miles away, computer screens started flashing with warnings. Technicians who had been drinking coffee and reading reports suddenly found themselves running to alert their commanders. The energy pattern was not in any of their databases. It was not Russian or Chinese or from any other country on Earth. Frank walked slowly toward his old pickup truck, thinking about the young man in the gun shop. He had tried to warn people before about what he had found, but no one ever believed him. The government had made sure of that long ago. They had buried the truth so deep that even Frank sometimes wondered if it had really happened. But the weapon in his bag was real. The scars on his body were real. The memories of that night in the jungle were real, even if the official report said it never happened. Frank got into his truck and started the engine. As he drove away from the gun shop, he did not notice the black cars that were already heading toward the same location. He did not see the helicopters changing course to fly over the area. He just drove home carrying the most dangerous secret on earth in an old canvas bag. Behind him, Danny Phillips continued playing his game, not knowing that in less than an hour, his quiet little gun shop would be visited by people who could make him disappear forever. People who took threats to national security very seriously, even when those threats came wrapped in old cloth and carried by forgotten veterans. The weapon in Frank's bag had been silent for over 30 years, but today it had awakened. And somewhere far above the earth, something had been listening for that exact signal. Commander Jake Sullivan was drinking his second cup of coffee when the red phone on his desk started ringing. It was the special phone that only rang when something very bad was happening. He picked it up before the second ring. Sullivan here. Commander, we have a Code 7 situation. Unknown energy signature detected over civilian area. You need to get your team ready now. Jake put down his coffee cup and reached for his jacket. Code 7 meant something that was not supposed to exist had just shown up on their sensors. In his 15 years with the Navy SEALs, he had only heard Code 7 called 3 times before. Where and when? He asked. Downtown area, Peterson's gun shop on Main Street. Energy signature appeared 67 minutes ago and lasted for approximately 30 seconds. Pattern does not match anything in our database. Jake was already walking toward the team room. Alien tech? That is what we need you to find out. Full discretion authorized. Take whatever team you think best. The line went dead. Jake pushed through the doors into the team room, where several of his men were cleaning weapons and reading reports. He looked around and picked the 3 he trusted most for strange situations. Carter, Morgan, Rodriguez. Gear up, we have a weird one. Lieutenant Ben Carter looked up from the rifle he was cleaning. He was a big man with steady hands who could take apart a bomb while people were shooting at him. How weird. The kind that makes satellites start screaming, Jake said. Full kit but civilian clothes. We do not want to scare the locals. Petty Officer Lisa Morgan closed the technical manual she was reading and started packing her electronics gear. She was the best tech specialist Jake had ever worked with, and she could make any piece of equipment do things it was not supposed to do. What kind of energy signature are we talking about? Unknown. Not nuclear. Not conventional. Not anything we have seen before. Sergeant Tony Rodriguez was already putting on his jacket. He was quiet and careful, the kind of man who could watch a building for 3 days and tell you everything about the people inside. Threat level? Unknown. Could be nothing, could be everything. That is why we are going to find out. The team spent 20 minutes getting ready. They put on normal clothes but carried hidden weapons and scanning equipment. Lisa packed her best sensors in a bag that looked like it held camera equipment. Ben carried tools that could break into anything or blow it up if needed. Tony brought surveillance gear that could see through walls and hear conversations from a mile away. They drove toward town in an unmarked van while Lisa monitored the radio channels. I am picking up some chatter from local police. Nothing unusual reported at the gun shop. No break-ins, no accidents, no problems. What about the energy reading? Jake asked. Lisa checked her portable scanner. Still getting traces. Whatever happened there left a signature that is slowly fading. We probably have another hour before it disappears completely. The gun shop was in the middle of a normal street with normal people walking around doing normal things. Jake watched an old woman walking her dog and a man washing his car. Nobody looked scared or worried. Whatever had happened here had not been noticed by regular people. Park across the street, Jake told Tony. Lisa, can you scan the building from here? Lisa pulled out her equipment and pointed it at the gun shop. The readings made her frown. This is very strange. I'm getting residual energy patterns that suggest some kind of quantum displacement occurred. In English, Ben said, something that should not exist was turned on in that building. Something that can bend space and time. Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. He had dealt with advanced weapons before, but nothing that could affect space and time. Are we talking about a bomb? No. More like a tool or weapon that uses physics we do not understand yet. The energy signature is unlike anything in our database, but it is definitely artificial. Someone made this thing. They watched the gun shop for a few minutes. Through the windows, they could see a young man behind the counter playing with his phone. He looked bored and normal, not like someone who had just encountered alien technology. We go in quiet, Jake decided. Standard civilian approach. Lisa, keep scanning. Ben and Tony, watch for problems. They walked across the street and entered the gun shop. The bell above the door announced their arrival. Danny Phillips looked up from his phone and immediately seemed nervous. 4 people in good shape wearing expensive sunglasses had just walked into his store, and they did not look like normal customers. "Can I help you?" Danny asked, his voice a little shaky. Jake smiled in a friendly way and walked up to the counter. "We hope so. We are looking for information about any unusual items that might have come through here today." "Unusual how?" Danny asked, but his eyes were already darting around like he was looking for an escape route. Lisa was quietly scanning the area behind the counter with her hidden equipment. The readings were getting stronger. Whatever had created the energy signature had been right here, right where Danny was standing. "We are interested in anything that might have seemed out of place. Maybe something someone was trying to sell that did not look quite right," Jake continued in his friendly voice. Danny tried to look confused. "We just sell normal guns here. Hunting rifles, pistols for protection, that kind of thing. Nothing unusual." Ben stepped closer to the counter. He was good at reading people, and Danny was definitely lying about something. "Are you sure? Maybe someone came in with something strange, something that did not look like a normal weapon." "No, nothing like that," Danny said quickly. Too quickly. Lisa caught Jake's eye and nodded slightly. Her scanner was picking up the strongest readings right where Danny was standing. Whatever had created the energy signature had definitely been on this counter. Jake decided to try a different approach. "Son, we are with the United States Navy. We have satellite confirmation that an unknown energy source was activated at this exact location 68 minutes ago. This is a matter of national security." Danny's face went white. He realized he was not dealing with regular customers but with military people who knew exactly what they were looking for. There was an old guy," Danny said slowly. "He had something weird with him. But it was just a prop or something. Not real." "What did this old guy look like?" Tony asked, pulling out a notebook. "Maybe 70 years old, gray hair, wearing old clothes. Said he was a veteran or something. He had this thing that looked like a gun, but it was all wrong. Weird colors, strange shape." "What did you do with this thing?" Jake asked. "Nothing. I told him we do not buy toys or movie props. He took it and left." Lisa's scanner was beeping softly now. The energy trail was leading away from the counter toward the door. "Commander, I can track where he went. The signature is faint but still readable." Jake nodded. They had what they needed from the gun shop. "Did this old man give you his name?" Danny shook his head. "No, but he seemed like he knew about military stuff. Talked like he had been in combat." "Thank you for your cooperation," Jake said. This conversation never happened. "Do you understand?" Danny nodded quickly. He understood that these people could make his life very difficult if he talked about what had just occurred. The team left the gun shop and got back in their van. Lisa was already tracking the energy signature with her equipment. The trail leads north toward the residential area. "Whoever this guy is, he is not very far away." Jake grabbed the radio. "Base, this is Team 7. We have confirmation of unknown technology in civilian hands. Requesting full authorization to recover. Authorized. What is your assessment of the threat?" Jake looked at Lisa's readings and thought about what Danny had told them. An old veteran with a weapon that could bend space and time. Unknown but potentially extreme. We are moving to locate and secure the technology now. The energy trail led the team through the downtown area and into a neighborhood of old apartment buildings and small houses. Lisa kept her scanner pointed ahead while Tony drove slowly through the quiet streets. The readings were getting stronger with each block they traveled. "Turn left here," Lisa said, watching the numbers on her screen climb higher. "Whatever we are tracking is very close now." They pulled into the parking lot of a 2-story apartment complex called Riverside Manor. The building was old, but well-maintained. With small gardens and clean walkways, it looked like the kind of place where retired people lived quietly. "Third floor, apartment 12? Lisa said, checking her readings again. "The signature is strongest right there." Jake studied the building. "Tony, find us a good position to watch the exits. Ben, check for any other ways out of that apartment. Lisa, keep monitoring the energy levels." They spent 10 minutes learning everything they could about the building and the apartment. Tony discovered that apartment 12 had a fire escape that led down to an alley behind the building. Ben found out from the mailboxes that the apartment was rented to someone named F. Morrison. Lisa confirmed that the energy signature was definitely coming from that specific apartment. F. Morrison, Jake said thoughtfully, fits with what the gun shop clerk told us about an old veteran. "What is our approach?" Ben asked. Jake thought about their options. They could break down the door and secure the apartment by force, but that would be hard to explain to the neighbors. They could wait and watch, but the energy signature might fade completely. Or they could try the direct approach and hope this Morrison character was reasonable. We knock on the door, Jake decided. If he really is an old veteran, he might understand what we are dealing with. They climbed the stairs to the second floor and walked down the hallway to apartment 12. Jake could hear a television playing inside and the sound of someone moving around. He knocked on the door 3 times. "Frank Morrison? We would like to speak with you, please." The sounds inside the apartment stopped. After a moment, they heard footsteps approaching the door. The door opened just enough for an eye to look out at them. "You boys are military," Frank said through the crack in the door. It was not a question. "Yes, sir. United States Navy. We need to talk to you about something you visited a gun shop with today." Frank looked at each of them carefully. He saw 4 people who knew how to handle themselves in dangerous situations. People who had been trained to deal with threats to national security. People who would not go away just because he asked them to. "Took you long enough," Frank said, opening the door wider. "I was starting to think the satellite network had stopped working." Jake was surprised by the response. Most civilians would have been confused or scared to find military personnel at their door. Frank Morrison sounded like he had been expecting them. "May we come in, sir?" Frank stepped back and gestured for them to enter. "Might as well. We have things to discuss." The apartment was small but neat. Military medals hung on one wall next to old photographs of soldiers. A bookshelf was filled with technical manuals and military history books. Everything was organized and clean, like someone who had never forgotten his military training. "Staff Sergeant Frank Morrison, Army Special Forces, retired," Frank said as he closed the door behind them. "Though I suppose you already know that. Commander Jake Sullivan, Naval Special Warfare. This is my team." Jake introduced the others while looking around the apartment. He noticed that Frank had positioned himself where he could see all the exits and had clear lines of movement to several different defensive positions. Lisa was discreetly scanning the apartment with her equipment. The energy readings were off the scale now. Whatever they were looking for was definitely here. "You came about the weapon," Frank said. "It was not a question." "Yes, sir. We detected an energy signature from the downtown area that matches no known technology. Our investigation led us here." Frank walked over to his coffee table where something was wrapped in an old cloth. He looked at the 4 military personnel in his living room and made a decision that he had been preparing for since 1971. "Sit down," Frank said. "This is going to take a while to explain." The team sat down on Frank's couch and chairs. Lisa kept her scanner running but tried to be discreet about it. Ben and Tony positioned themselves where they could move quickly if needed. Jake leaned forward and waited for Frank to begin. Frank unwrapped the cloth bundle on his coffee table. The weapon inside made Lisa's scanner start beeping rapidly. It was the same strange device that Danny had described, with its blue-green metal and impossible curves. "Before we start," Frank said, "I need to know your security clearance levels." Jake was surprised again. Most civilians did not know about security clearances, and those who did usually did not ask about them so casually. "We all have top-secret clearance," Jake said, "with additional special access programs as needed." Frank shook his head. "Not high enough. What I'm about to tell you is classified at levels that officially do not exist, but I suppose someone has to know eventually." He picked up the weapon and held it carefully in his hands. "I acquired this during a classified operation in Cambodia in 1971. My unit was investigating reports of unusual aircraft activity in an area that was supposed to be empty jungle." Lisa's scanner was going crazy now. The energy readings were fluctuating wildly, like the weapon was responding to Frank's touch. "We found a crash site," Frank continued. "Something had come down hard and left a crater about 50 feet wide. The craft was unlike anything we had ever seen. Not Russian, not Chinese, not from anywhere on Earth." Ben leaned forward. "Are you saying this is alien technology?" "I am saying that my entire unit was killed trying to investigate that crash site. I am saying that this weapon saved my life when conventional firearms were useless. I am saying that the government buried the whole incident so deep that it officially never happened." Frank set the weapon back down on the table. "I kept this because I knew that someday whoever built it would come back looking for it. And when that day came, humanity would need to know what we were dealing with." Tony had been quiet until now, but he spoke up. "How do you know they are coming back?" Frank walked over to his bookshelf and pulled out a thick folder filled with newspaper clippings, photographs, and technical diagrams. Because I have been monitoring energy signatures like this one for 34 years. Because the frequency of sightings has been increasing every year. Because 3 days ago, my equipment detected multiple contacts in Earth's upper atmosphere that match this weapon's energy signature. Jake felt that cold feeling in his stomach again. Multiple contacts? At least 3 large objects, possibly more. They are being very careful to stay out of range of most detection systems, but they are there. Lisa looked up from her scanner. Commander, I am reading massive energy fluctuations from this weapon. It seems to be responding to our presence somehow. Frank nodded. It does that. I think it recognizes when people with military training are nearby. It has been getting more active over the past few days. Jake realized that they were not just dealing with a single piece of alien technology in the hands of a retired veteran. They were potentially dealing with an alien presence in Earth's atmosphere that was looking for this exact weapon. Mr. Morrison, Jake said carefully, I think we need to contact our superiors immediately. Frank shook his head. No communications. They will know if you try to call for backup. The weapon seems to interfere with radio signals when it is active. As if to prove his point, Lisa's radio started crackling with static. Her scanner readings were jumping all over the place and her communication equipment was showing error messages. Then what do you suggest we do? Jake asked. Frank looked at each of them again. 4 trained military personnel who had stumbled into something much bigger than they had expected. People who would have to make decisions that could affect the entire human race. We prepare, Frank said simply, because ready or not, they are coming. Frank led the team to his kitchen table where he had spread out dozens of photographs, documents, and hand-drawn diagrams. Jake picked up one of the photographs and saw what looked like a metal craft half buried in jungle vegetation. The image was old and slightly blurred, but he could make out details that did not match any aircraft he knew. This was taken 2 days after the crash, Frank explained, before the site was destroyed by airstrikes and officially declared a training accident. Lisa studied the technical diagrams that Frank had drawn over the years. They showed detailed cutaway views of the weapon and theories about how it might work. The level of detail was impressive for someone without formal engineering training. You have been studying this for 34 years? She asked. Every day, Frank replied. At first, I just wanted to understand what had killed my friends. Later, I realized I might be holding the key to humanity's survival. Ben was looking at a stack of newspaper clippings about UFO sightings from around the world. All of these are connected to your weapon? Frank nodded. Energy signatures that match what this thing produces. The pattern has been increasing steadily since 1971. Whatever species built this technology has been watching us and getting closer. Tony had found a world map covered with pins and dates. What are all these markers? Confirmed sightings with energy readings that match the weapon. Look at the dates, Frank said, pointing to different colored pins. Green pins are from the 1970s and 1980s, maybe 1 or 2 per year. Yellow pins are from the 1990s and 2000s, 5 to 10 per year. Red pins are from the last 5 years. Jake counted the red pins and felt his stomach drop. There are over 100 red pins. 137 confirmed sightings in the past 5 years alone. They are not just watching anymore. They are getting ready for something. Lisa had connected her scanner to Frank's technical diagrams and was running comparisons. These drawings are remarkably accurate. How did you figure out the internal structure without taking the weapon apart? Frank smiled grimly. Who says I never took it apart? I have been very careful, but I have learned quite a bit about how this thing works. He walked over to a locked cabinet and pulled out a key. Inside the cabinet were several electronic devices that looked like crude versions of the alien weapon. They had the same general shape but were made from obviously human materials and technology. You built copies? Jake asked, amazed. I tried to. These are my attempts to recreate the technology using Earth materials and human understanding. They are not as good as the original, but they work. Frank picked up one of his homemade weapons and showed it to the team. It was clearly built from parts that someone could buy at electronic stores and machine shops. The workmanship was excellent, but it looked primitive compared to the smooth alien original. How many of these have you made? Tony asked. 12 functional units. I was working on a 13th when my equipment detected the incoming contacts 3 days ago. Lisa was scanning one of Frank's copies with her equipment. This is incredible. You have managed to partially reverse engineer alien technology using 1970s human science. It took me 20 years to build the first working copy, Frank said. The principles are completely different from anything in human physics. The original weapon does not use chemical propellants or conventional energy sources. It draws power directly from quantum fluctuations in space-time itself. Ben was trying to understand the implications. So it never runs out of ammunition? Essentially, yes. As long as space and time exist, the weapon has an unlimited power source. Jake was thinking about the bigger picture. Mr. Morrison, if you are right about these incoming contacts, we need to warn people. We need to contact the Pentagon and... His words were cut off by a loud alarm from Lisa's scanner. The device was beeping rapidly and flashing red warnings across its screen. What is it? Jake asked. Lisa's face had gone pale. I am detecting 3 massive energy signatures entering Earth's atmosphere. They are big, Commander. Really big. Frank walked to his window and looked up at the sky. Right on schedule. They have been waiting for the right moment, and something we did today triggered their approach. Something we did? Tony asked. Frank looked back at his weapon on the kitchen table. This thing has been dormant for over 30 years. But when I took it to the gun shop today, it activated briefly. I think it was trying to call home. The implications hit Jake like a physical blow. You mean they are coming because you turned on their weapon? I mean they are coming because after 34 years of searching, they finally know exactly where their missing technology is located. Lisa's scanner was showing more detailed information now. 3 objects, each approximately 800 meters long. They are not coming down like meteors. They are under intelligent control and decelerating in a pattern that suggests powered flight. Ben grabbed his radio to try calling for backup, but it produced only static. Communications are completely jammed. Frank nodded. They do not want us calling for help. This is going to be between us and them. Jake made a command decision. We need to get to a secure location and figure out our options. No, Frank said firmly. We need to stay here. This weapon is what they came for, and this is where they will come looking for it. Tony was watching the sky through the window. How long do we have? Lisa checked her readings again. Based on their current rate of descent, maybe 2 hours before they reach the surface. Frank walked back to his locked cabinet and started pulling out more equipment. Then we have 2 hours to decide whether we give them back their property or try to fight beings who can travel between stars. Jake looked around Frank's small apartment at the alien weapon, the crude human copies, and the lifetime of research that one determined veteran had accumulated. What are our chances if we fight? Frank assembled one of his homemade weapons and checked its power levels. Unknown. This is the first time in human history that we have had any of their technology to use against them. We might surprise them. Or they might have weapons that make this look like a toy, Ben pointed out. Probably, Frank agreed. But I did not spend 34 years preparing for this moment, just to hand over the most important discovery in human history without a fight. Lisa was monitoring multiple frequencies now, trying to get any information about what was happening. I am picking up emergency broadcasts from around the world. Multiple governments are reporting unidentified objects in their airspace. How many? Jake asked. At least a dozen separate contacts on different continents. This is not just about recovering one weapon. This is a coordinated global operation. Frank stopped what he was doing and looked at the team. Then it is even worse than I thought. They are not just coming for their technology. They are making contact with humanity as a species. Tony was still watching the sky, and we are about to be the first humans to meet them face to face. Maybe, Frank said, loading power cells into his homemade weapons. Or maybe we are about to be the first humans to shoot back. Jake realized that in the next 2 hours, the 4 of them would have to make decisions that could determine the future of the entire human race. They had stumbled into first contact with an alien species, and they were completely on their own. Lisa's scanner suddenly erupted with new readings that made her check the device twice to make sure it was working properly. Commander, I am detecting landing signatures from 3 locations: New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago. Frank set down the weapon he was examining and walked to his radio equipment. Despite the jamming, he was able to pick up emergency broadcasts from news stations around the world. The reports were confused and frightened, but the basic facts were clear. 3 craft have landed in major population centers, Frank reported. Each one is roughly the size of a city block. Military forces are surrounding all 3 sites, but conventional weapons are not affecting the ships. Jake felt the weight of command settling on his shoulders. Any communication from the craft? Nothing yet. They are just sitting there with some kind of energy barrier around them that stops everything we throw at them. Ben was looking at Frank's collection of reverse-engineered weapons. How effective do you think these copies would be against their original technology? Frank picked up one of his homemade devices and activated it. The weapon hummed to life with a sound that was almost musical. I honestly do not know. I have tested them against Earth materials, but I have no idea how they would perform against the technology that inspired them. Tony was monitoring news feeds on his phone. Panic is spreading through all 3 cities. Millions of people are trying to evacuate at the same time. Lisa was running continuous scans on the alien weapon Frank had recovered decades ago. The original weapon is becoming more active. Energy levels are increasing steadily. It knows its makers are here, Frank said. After 34 years of being cut off from its home technology, it is trying to reconnect. Jake made a decision that would have gotten him court-martialed under normal circumstances. We need to assume that no help is coming. Whatever we do it with what we have right here in this room. Frank opened another cabinet and revealed a workshop area that looked like something from a science fiction movie. Electronic components were arranged in precise patterns next to tools that Jake did not recognize. Half-completed weapons lay on workbenches next to detailed technical drawings. I have been preparing for this day for 34 years. Frank said. I knew that eventually I would have to choose between returning their technology or using it to defend humanity. What are you suggesting? Tony asked. Frank activated a device that looked like a combination computer and radar system. I am suggesting that we find out what they want before we decide whether to give it to them. The device came online and immediately began displaying information about the 3 landed craft. The energy signatures matched the alien weapon perfectly, confirming that they were dealing with the same species that Frank had encountered in Cambodia. According to my readings, the craft are not offensive weapons, Frank said, studying the data. They are more like transport ships or exploration vessels. Lisa connected her military scanner to Frank's system and got even more detailed information. He is right. These ships have powerful defensive systems, but I am not detecting weapons that could destroy cities or anything like that. That could be good news or bad news, Ben pointed out. Maybe they are peaceful explorers, or maybe they have weapons we cannot detect. Frank pulled up historical data from his 3 decades of monitoring alien activity. Based on everything I have observed, I think they are cautious. They have been watching us for a long time, learning about us, waiting for the right moment to make contact. And that moment is now? Jake asked. That moment is when we activated their technology in a way that told them exactly where to find it. Tony was watching news feeds from all 3 landing sites. Military units are completely surrounding the craft, but nothing is happening. It is like both sides are waiting for someone else to make the first move. Frank's radio equipment crackled to life with a new transmission. Instead of human voices, they heard something that sounded like music mixed with mathematics. The pattern was complex but clearly artificial. That is them, Frank said, recording the transmission. First communication attempt. Lisa ran the signal through her analysis equipment. The pattern is definitely a constructed language. It has mathematical relationships that suggest intelligence, but I cannot decode it. Frank had been thinking about this moment for decades. I think they are trying to establish peaceful communication. If they wanted to attack, they would have done it already. Or they are demanding the return of their property, Ben suggested. The alien transmission repeated several times, then stopped. Frank's equipment detected a new energy pattern coming from all 3 landing sites simultaneously. What are they doing now? Jake asked. Lisa checked her readings. Scanning. They are conducting some kind of detailed scan of the entire planet. Looking for more of their technology, Frank said. They want to know if we have anything else that belongs to them. Within minutes, all of Frank's monitoring equipment began picking up focused energy beams directed at their exact location. The alien craft had located their missing weapon with pinpoint accuracy. They know we are here, Tony said, looking out the window as if he expected to see spacecraft landing in the parking lot. Frank walked to his window and looked up at the sky. For a moment, he could see a distant glimmer of light that seemed to be moving in a pattern too regular to be natural. They are coming for their property, Frank said. The question is whether they plan to negotiate for it or just take it. Jake checked his sidearm and made sure his team was ready for anything. What do you recommend, Mr. Morrison? Frank looked at the weapon that had defined his life for 34 years. The device that had saved him in a jungle in Cambodia and led him to this moment when humanity would meet another intelligent species for the first time. "I recommend we give them a choice," Frank said. "We can return their technology peacefully, or we can show them that humanity has learned how to use it." Lisa's scanner detected new movement from the landing sites. "Energy signatures are changing. Something is launching from all three craft." "How long until they get here?" Ben asked. Frank checked his calculations based on the energy patterns. 20 minutes, maybe less. Jake realized that in less than half an hour, first contact between humanity and an alien species would happen in a small apartment in a quiet neighborhood. 4 military personnel and 1 determined veteran would represent the entire human race. "Weapons check," Jake ordered his team. "Make sure everything is ready." Frank activated all 12 of his reverse-engineered weapons and distributed them around the apartment. If we are going to make humanity's first impression on an alien species, we might as well make it memorable. Through the window, they could see other residents of the apartment complex looking up at the sky and pointing. Word was spreading that something unusual was happening, but nobody knew just how unusual it was about to become. Jake made another command decision that would change everything. "We are going to test one of your weapons, Mr. Morrison. I need to know what we are working with." Frank nodded and picked up one of his reverse-engineered devices. "There is an abandoned quarry about 15 minutes from here. We can test it there without anyone getting hurt." They loaded Frank's equipment into their van and drove quickly through the back roads toward the quarry. Lisa monitored her scanner during the trip and reported that the alien approach vehicles were still about 10 minutes away from Frank's apartment. "We have a small window," Jake said. "Test the weapon, get back to the apartment, and be ready for whatever comes next." The quarry was a deep pit that had been dug out of solid rock decades ago. Large boulders and pieces of broken stone lay scattered around the bottom. It was the perfect place to test a weapon without anyone asking questions about the results. Frank carried his homemade device to the edge of the quarry and activated it. The weapon hummed to life with the same musical sound they had heard before, but louder and more complex. Energy patterns flickered along its surface like lightning trapped in metal. "Target that boulder," Jake said, pointing to a piece of stone about the size of a car sitting at the bottom of the quarry. Frank aimed carefully and activated the weapon's firing mechanism. Instead of a loud explosion or bright flash, there was only a soft whisper of sound. The boulder they had targeted simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed or vaporized, but completely removed from reality, as if it had never been there. "What happened to it?" Ben asked, staring at the empty space where the boulder had been. Frank lowered the weapon and checked its power readings. "Quantum displacement. The weapon moves matter to a different location in space-time. I have never been able to figure out where the displaced matter goes." Lisa's scanner was detecting massive energy fluctuations from the weapon. "The power levels are incredible. This single device is producing more energy than a nuclear reactor." Tony was studying the area where the boulder had been. "No heat, no radiation, no debris. It is like it was never there." Jake realized they were holding technology that made humanity's most advanced weapons look like stone tools. "How many shots can it fire?" "As many as needed," Frank replied. "It draws power directly from quantum fluctuations in space itself. As long as the universe exists, the weapon has unlimited ammunition." The test was interrupted by urgent beeping from Lisa's scanner. "Commander, the alien approach vehicles just changed course. They are heading directly for our current location." Frank looked up at the sky where 3 points of light were becoming visible even in the afternoon sun. They detected the weapon test. Now they know we can use their technology. Jake made rapid calculations about their tactical situation. "How long to get back to the apartment?" 15 minutes, Tony replied. "How long until the aliens arrive here?" Lisa checked her readings again. 8 minutes. They were not going to make it back to Frank's apartment. First contact with an alien species was going to happen at an abandoned quarry with 4 Navy SEALs and 1 determined veteran. "New plan," Jake announced. "We make our stand here." "Frank, how many weapons do we have?" Frank was already pulling his equipment out of the van. 12 functional units plus the original alien weapon, enough for each of us to have multiple backup weapons. Ben and Tony took positions that gave them clear fields of fire across the quarry, while still providing cover behind large rocks. Lisa set up her scanning equipment to monitor the approaching aliens. Jake helped Frank distribute the reverse-engineered weapons. "Rules of engagement?" Ben asked. Jake thought about the magnitude of what they were facing. We try communication first. If they attack, we defend ourselves. If they try to take the weapons by force, we show them that humanity is not helpless. The 3 alien approach vehicles became clearly visible as they descended toward the quarry. They were smaller than the massive ships that had landed in the cities, but still larger than any human aircraft. Their surfaces rippled with the same blue-green energy as Frank's weapon. Energy barriers are activating around all 3 vehicles, Lisa reported. Same technology that is protecting the ships in the cities. Frank activated the original alien weapon and immediately felt it respond to his touch. After 34 years of study, he knew the device better than its creators might have expected. They are scanning us, Lisa said, as strange energy patterns played across her equipment. Very detailed scans. They are learning everything they can about human physiology and technology. The 3 alien vehicles landed in a triangle formation around the quarry, trapping the humans in the middle. For several minutes, nothing happened. Both sides seemed to be waiting for the other to make the first move. Then one of the alien craft opened with a sound like singing crystal. Something emerged that made all of them question everything they thought they knew about life in the universe. The being that stepped out of the craft was humanoid, but clearly not human. It stood about 7 feet tall with 4 arms and skin that seemed to shift color like the metal of their weapons. Its head was elongated and it had large eyes that reflected light like mirrors. "First contact," Tony whispered. The alien being raised 2 of its 4 arms in what might have been a peaceful gesture. When it spoke, the words came not from its mouth but seemed to form directly in their minds. "We greet the guardians of the lost fragment. We have searched long to recover what was taken from us." Frank stepped forward, still holding the original weapon. "We greet the makers of this technology. We have guarded it well and learned from it." The alien's head tilted in what might have been surprise. "You speak our language form. You have studied the fragment extensively." "For 34 years, Frank replied. "I have learned much about your technology and your people." The alien looked at the reverse-engineered weapons that Jake's team was holding. "You have replicated the fragment's function." This was not expected. Jake decided it was time to establish humanity's position. "We are not a primitive species. We learn quickly and adapt to new technology." More aliens emerged from the 3 craft. They began spreading out around the quarry in what was obviously a military formation. The humans were outnumbered, but they had weapons that could potentially fight back. "The fragment must be returned," the lead alien communicated. "It is dangerous for your species to possess such technology." Frank raised the original weapon slightly. "Perhaps, but we have already learned its secrets. Knowledge cannot be unlearned." The standoff had begun. Humanity's future would be decided in the next few minutes. The alien beings continued to emerge from their 3 craft until there were at least 20 of them surrounding the quarry. Each one carried a weapon similar to Frank's original device, but theirs seemed more advanced and had additional features that Frank had never seen before. "We do not wish conflict with your species," the lead alien communicated directly into their minds. "But the fragment technology is beyond your current development level. It presents dangers you do not understand." Frank kept the original weapon ready but did not aim it at anyone. "We understand enough. We know it draws power from quantum fields. We know it can displace matter across space-time. We know it responds to the user's intent and training." The alien's large eyes seemed to focus more intently on Frank. "You speak with knowledge that should not exist. How long have you possessed the fragment?" "Since 1971. Since your people crashed in the jungles of Cambodia and my unit was sent to investigate." A ripple of movement went through the alien formation. Several of them began communicating with each other in rapid bursts of thought that the humans could not understand. "The survey vessel, Kethmar, was lost in that region during that time. Period," the lead alien confirmed. "You were present at the crash site?" Frank's memories of that night came flooding back. The strange lights in the jungle, the impossible craft buried in the crater, the death of his entire unit except for him. "I was the only survivor." Jake stepped closer to Frank, ready to support him if the situation turned violent. The aliens were clearly more advanced than humanity, but they seemed genuinely surprised by what they were learning. "The fragment has been studying your species through its connection to you," the alien communicated. "For 34 years it has been learning about human psychology, human technology, human potential." Lisa's scanner was detecting massive energy buildups from all 3 alien craft. Commander, I think they are preparing something big. The lead alien raised all four of its arms in what seemed to be a signal to its companions. We must consult with the collective consciousness. This situation is unprecedented. Ben noticed that more alien beings were appearing from the craft, but these ones looked different. They were smaller, and their skin colors shifted in complex patterns that seemed to form some kind of visual language. Who are they? Tony asked. Decision makers, the lead alien replied. Your species has created a situation that requires judgment from our highest authorities. Frank realized that humanity was essentially on trial. The aliens were deciding whether humans could be trusted with advanced technology or whether the knowledge needed to be removed by force. What are our options? Jake asked directly. One of the smaller aliens stepped forward. Its communication felt different, older, and more complex. Option 1, you return all fragment technology and all knowledge gained from it. Your species continues development at its natural pace. Option 2, Frank asked. Option 2, you demonstrate that your species can be trusted with technology that could reshape your entire civilization. Lisa was monitoring energy readings from all around the quarry. Commander, there are more craft approaching. Lots more. Looking up at the sky, they could see points of light appearing like new stars. Dozens of alien vessels were taking positions in Earth's atmosphere. The entire exploration fleet has been summoned, the elder alien explained. Your species stands at a crossroads that will determine your future for thousands of years. Ben was counting the new arrivals. How many ships are up there? Sufficient to ensure that our decision is enforced, the elder alien replied ominously. Frank made a choice that would echo through human history. We choose option 2. Humanity will prove it can handle advanced technology responsibly. The elder alien's skin pattern shifted to colors that seemed to indicate approval. Then you must pass 3 trials. First, demonstrate tactical wisdom by showing you can use the fragment technology without causing unnecessary destruction. Jake nodded to his team. They spread out around the quarry and activated Frank's reverse-engineered weapons. The devices hummed to life and energy patterns danced across their surfaces. Target the cliff face on the north side of the quarry, Frank instructed. Remove exactly 1 cubic meter of stone. The 4 Navy SEALs aimed their weapons carefully and fired in sequence. 4 perfect cubes of stone simply vanished from the cliff face, leaving smooth-edged cavities that looked like they had been carved with impossible precision. The aliens observed this demonstration with obvious interest. Several of them activated recording devices to document what they were seeing. Tactical wisdom demonstrated, the elder alien confirmed. Second trial. Demonstrate technological wisdom by showing you understand the deeper principles of fragment technology. Frank had been preparing for this moment for 34 years. He activated his own homemade weapon and began modifying its settings using controls he had built into the device. The fragment technology does not just displace matter, Frank explained while he worked. It can also manipulate the fundamental forces that hold matter together. He aimed his weapon at a pile of loose rocks and fired. Instead of displacing the rocks, the weapon fused them into a single piece of crystal-clear glass, shaped like a perfect sphere. Matter reorganization at the molecular level. Frank continued. The same energy that can displace objects can also transform them. The aliens were clearly impressed. Their formation shifted to give them better viewing angles, and more recording devices appeared. Technological wisdom demonstrated. The elder alien confirmed. Final trial. Demonstrate moral wisdom by showing you can choose the welfare of others over personal advantage. This was the test Frank had been dreading. He knew what they were going to ask. Return the original fragment to us, the elder alien commanded. Prove that humanity can sacrifice power for the greater good. Frank looked at the weapon that had saved his life and defined his purpose for over 3 decades. The device that represented humanity's only example of truly advanced technology. The key to transforming human civilization. He looked at Jake and his team, who were watching him with expressions that said they would support whatever decision he made. He looked at the alien beings who held the power to either welcome humanity into a larger universe or set them back centuries. Frank Morrison, the forgotten veteran who had been dismissed by a gun shop clerk just hours earlier, made the choice that would determine humanity's future among the stars. Frank held the original alien weapon in his hands and felt its familiar weight. After 34 years of study and preparation, he was being asked to give up the most important discovery in human history. But as he looked at the alien beings surrounding them, he realized that this moment was about more than just technology. "I will return your fragment," Frank said, stepping toward the elder alien. "But not because you demand it. Because humanity chooses to earn your respect rather than steal your technology." The elder alien's skin pattern shifted to what might have been surprise. "You understand the significance of this choice?" Frank nodded. "I understand that trust must be earned. Take your weapon back." He held out the device to the elder alien, who approached carefully and accepted it with two of its forearms. The moment the alien touched the weapon, energy patterns flowed between them like visible communication. "Remarkable," the elder alien communicated after a long moment. "The fragment has learned much about your species through its connection to you. It reports that humans possess qualities we did not expect." Jake stepped forward. "What kind of qualities?" "Determination beyond logical limits. Curiosity that overcomes fear. The ability to adapt and learn from any situation." The elder alien studied the human-built weapons that Jake's team still carried. "These replications should not be possible with your current technology level." Frank smiled grimly. "You underestimated human stubbornness. I spent 34 years figuring out how your technology works because I was too stubborn to give up." More aliens were emerging from the craft in the sky, descending on beams of light to join the gathering in the quarry. But these new arrivals seemed different somehow. Their movements were more formal, more ceremonial. "The Fleet Council has reached a decision about your species," the elder alien announced. "Based on the trials you have passed and the wisdom you have demonstrated, humanity will be offered a choice." Lisa's scanner was detecting new energy patterns from all the alien craft. "Whatever they are preparing, it is big." One of the newly arrived aliens stepped forward. This one was larger than the others and wore what looked like ornamental additions to its natural armor-like skin. When it communicated, the mental voice carried an authority that made all the humans stand straighter. "I am Fleet Commander Zeth Cole. On behalf of the Galactic Cooperative Council, I offer humanity membership in the community of star-traveling species." Jake felt the weight of speaking for his entire species. "What does that membership involve?" "Access to cooperative technology, knowledge, and resources. Participation in interstellar trade and communication. Protection under galactic law and mutual defense agreements." Ben asked the obvious question. "What are the requirements?" "Demonstrate that your species can use advanced technology without destroying yourselves or threatening others. Contribute to the common knowledge and resources of the cooperative. Accept guidance from more experienced species during your transition period." Frank realized they were being offered everything he had dreamed of during his decades of study. "How long is this transition period?" "Typically between 50 and 100 of your years. Your species will be evaluated periodically to determine readiness for full independence." Tony was thinking about the practical implications. What about the people who panic when they learn about alien contact? Fleet Commander Zeth Cole seemed to find this amusing. "Your species is remarkably adaptable. Within one generation, most humans will consider interstellar travel as normal as your current aircraft." The elder alien, who had conducted their trials, stepped forward again. "However, membership is not automatic. Your species must choose to accept it unanimously through your existing governments." Jake realized the magnitude of what they were discussing. "You want every nation on Earth to agree to join this galactic cooperative?" "Yes. Partial membership creates conflicts that damage both the individual species and the cooperative as a whole." Lisa was recording everything with her equipment. "How do we convince every government on Earth to agree to something this unprecedented?" Fleet Commander Zeth Cole gestured toward the sky where the alien fleet was visible. "We will demonstrate the benefits of cooperation and the consequences of isolation. Your leaders are intelligent, enough to recognize opportunity when it is presented properly." Frank looked at his reverse-engineered weapons and realized they represented just the beginning of what humanity could learn. "Will we be allowed to keep the technology we have already developed? The fragment copies you created are crude but functional. You may retain them as a starting point for your technological development. Consider them a graduation gift." The ceremony was interrupted by urgent communication between the aliens. Several of them were gesturing toward their craft and speaking in rapid bursts of thought. "What is happening?" Jake asked. The elder alien looked concerned. "Other species in this region have detected our fleet movements. Some of them are not members of the cooperative and may view your planet as a threat if they believe you have acquired advanced weapons. Ben understood immediately. Are you saying we might be attacked? Possible. The Rathzek Empire has been expanding aggressively in this stellar region. They eliminate species they consider potential threats before those species can develop effective defenses. Frank felt a chill that had nothing to do with the evening air. How long do we have? Unknown. The Rathzek move quickly when they perceive threats. If they decide humanity is dangerous, they could arrive within days. Fleet Commander Zethkol made a decision. We will remain in your system to provide protection during the negotiation period. Your governments have 72 hours to decide whether to accept cooperative membership. Jake realized that first contact had just become a matter of survival. And if our governments refuse? Then you face the Rathzek alone with the technology you have. The aliens began returning to their craft, but Fleet Commander Zethkol approached Frank directly. You have served your species well, Guardian of the Fragment. Your name will be remembered in cooperative history. I am just an old soldier who kept a promise, Frank replied. You are the bridge between humanity and the stars, the Fleet Commander corrected. That makes you one of the most important humans who ever lived. As the alien craft lifted off and rejoined their fleet in the sky, Jake's team stood in the quarry trying to process everything that had just happened. In a few hours, they had gone from investigating an energy signature to representing humanity in first contact with an alien civilization. Frank looked up at the stars that were beginning to appear in the darkening sky. Somewhere among those points of light were civilizations that had been traveling between worlds for thousands of years, and now humanity had been invited to join them. What happens now? Lisa asked. Frank picked up one of his reverse-engineered weapons and checked its power levels. Now we go home and wait to see if our species is smart enough to accept the greatest opportunity in human history. Jake activated his radio, which was finally working again now that the alien jamming had stopped. Base, this is Team 7. We need immediate contact with the Pentagon, the White House, and every world leader who can be reached. Humanity has 72 hours to decide its future among the stars, the Fur. Old veteran who had been thrown out of a gun shop that morning had become the man who opened the door to the galaxy for the entire human race. Frank Morrison smiled as he looked up at the alien fleet that was now humanity's protector and wondered what Danny Phillips would think when he learned that the toy gun he had dismissed was the key to the universe.